This being the last day of the House, I'm going to give the opportunity to all three leaders to give a little closing speech. I recognize the leader of the third party.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have a few reflections on the 58th legislature that I want to share, but I want to start with saying that it's not easy as the single member of the third party, the leader here in the House, to cover the entire landscape and to be able to cover the landscape of all the bills, the issues that come before the legislature, and the motions that we deal with. I am forever grateful to my staff. Shannon Carmont, my Chief of Staff, Josh O'Donnell, who is my Legislative Assistant, Pascal Desrosiers-Hickey, who is my Scheduling Assistant and Office Manager, Lee Hunter, who has been my Executive Assistant, and she's just about to depart for a new job at Canada's Juno Beach Interpretive Centre in France, which will be an exciting time for her, I'm sure. Taeyeon Kim, my formidable constituency coordinator, who does a remarkable job working with me in the constituency, and of course Meredith Brewer, who's retired but worked for a good number of years here as my Chief of Staff. And I also want to mention and thank all of the student interns who've done such hard work for me in the office here to help me be well prepared for work in the Legislative Assembly. I want to say a special thank you to the member of St. John Lancaster, whose desk was next to mine for much of this session, for her help, in particular when I arrived as a rookie MLA, to help me learn the finer points of parliamentary procedure and practice. She was always so helpful and supportive in that way as I got my legs under me in the beginning of this 58th legislature. So thanks so much to Dorothy Shepherd. It certainly is an honor to serve the people of Fredericton South, Mr. Speaker, all of the people of Fredericton South, Mr. Speaker, whether they can vote or not. So that includes the youth and the newcomers, which is an increasing part of the population of Fredericton South and who are making an important contribution to the vibrancy and economic development of our community. I want to recognize, of course, the constituents who have chosen to serve over time on my youth and senior roundtables so that I could do the best possible job on behalf of youth and seniors in this Legislative Assembly, as well as to all of those constituents who have come to me or attended community meetings and raised their concerns, their issues, sought help, proposed actions, or raised concerns that they wanted me to pursue in this legislature, which helped guide the matters that I brought before this Legislative Assembly, the questions I asked at question period, and some of the proposed bills that I brought forward. Mon personnel et moi avons mis au point une méthode efficace pour aider les électeurs à naviguer dans les services gouvernementaux quand le système dresse des obstacles à l'accès au logement abordable et sécuritaire, à l'aide aux revenus, aux médicaments et aux services de santé. Over this legislature, Mr. Speaker, I've drafted 16 bills to advance the public interest in everything from economic development to government transparency. Some of these bills, I dare say, seems to have encouraged the government to introduce their own comparable legislation, and others have strengthened public policies that they were developing. My bill to amend the Education Act to ensure that all public school students learn about the history of the historical and contemporary relationship with First Nations in New Brunswick and about our treaty relationships. That now, it was unanimously passed, Mr. Speaker, and is having real results in terms of influencing the curriculum in our public education system. And I appreciate all of the members' efforts to ensure that this bill got passed, because, of course, it implemented one of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission's calls to action and will ensure our youth can help play a positive role on the road to reconciliation. So I think that's something in this legislature we can all be very proud of. Ça fait plaisir de voir le ministère de l'Agriculture travailler fort pour renforcer l'économie des aliments locaux et atteindre les objectifs de produits locaux dans les cafétérias scolaires et aussi appuyer la nouvelle coopérative grossiste Canby d'aliments locaux. Même si mon projet de loi sur les aliments locaux n'a pas été adopté, il semble avoir créé l'espace politique nécessaire pour amener des changements dans ce secteur. Equally, while my bill to end corporate and union donations from the political process was defeated last year, in the end, we ended up in the same place, Mr. Speaker, with all three parties agreeing to institute those changes. Again, I think a good example of cooperation, maybe through a circuitous route in this legislature, which I know all New Brunswickers want to see more of in the next Legislative Assembly. While I worked diligently at committee to improve many of the hundreds of government bills we examined by proposing substantive amendments, the political culture of the executive branch has not yet quite evolved to the point, for the most part, where we still have the government members of committee rejecting amendments generally out of hand, with a few exceptions, such as when the Minister of Finance accepted my efforts to ensure that Cannabis MB will be directly accountable to this legislature. Again, a nice example of collaboration. Members in this House routinely refer to our provincial parliament as the People's House. But there remains work to be done, Mr. Speaker, in this House to ensure in the next legislature that, in fact, the people of the province can be more engaged in the work of this House at the committee stage. I think democracy would be well served by ensuring the public can appear before our standing committees, as is common in most other parliaments in Canada and throughout the Commonwealth, and that takes a mandate to be given by the Legislative Assembly, and hopefully we'll see that come from the next legislature here in New Brunswick. I am pleased that my efforts to ensure that our rules describe the roles, responsibilities, and code of conduct for MLAs, which I first introduced back in February of 2016, became a reality this week, again, with the unanimous support of this House. And I'm sure other MLAs and members have experienced this as well, that the idea that we have instituted and collaborated on putting in place a code of conduct for MLAs in this Legislative Assembly has been met with positive responses from constituents, and I know that's in my riding, and I'm sure people are hearing that from their constituents as well. People see this as a positive step and one that is only going to enhance the work of all members of this Legislative Assembly in the future. I want to recognize the efforts of all of our legislative officers, Mr. Speaker, for the tremendous work they do on our behalf as the Legislative Assembly, as members, and on behalf of the people of this province. However, Mr. Speaker, we still have work to do to ensure we can most effectively take advantage of their recommendations for change within their areas of expertise and the mandates they've been given. The Auditor General made a heroic effort to provide professional development opportunities for the Public Accounts Committee, which I can attest, and I think my colleagues on the committee would say was a very valuable experience, a tremendous initiative. We learned a lot. But, Mr. Speaker, the collective efforts of the committee members, unfortunately, ran up against, again, the sort of unproductive level of I would say, party discipline that extends and reaches down into the committee work of this Legislative Assembly, something that can be worked on by the next legislature here in New Brunswick. This was not the case, however, when it came to taking politics out of determining who was to receive funding to hire summer students. As a first-time MLA, I was surprised that this archaic process existed and was very public about my concerns, and I was very pleased when the Premier and Cabinet decided to take the politics out of summer job funding in this province. And I don't know about them, but I've had parents come to me and thank me for raising this as an issue, and so I want to recognize the Premier and Cabinet's and caucus's decision to take action there. Toutefois, le manque de transparence du gouvernement reste problématique, qu'il soit question des détails des ententes fédérales provinciales pour la mise en œuvre des programmes nationaux ou des dépenses des fonds publics pour la gestion privée des foyers de soins, ou encore des services ambulanciers et maintenant du programme extramural. J'attends la décision de la Cour concernant le droit de la population à être informée des détails du financement public des services dans les foyers de soins privés. The citizens of our province, Mr. Speaker, invest their trust in us to work on their behalf as parliamentarians, to make good laws, to ensure financial accountability, and to provide effective parliamentary oversight to the actions of the Premier and Cabinet, which of course is the role of this Legislative Assembly. We can and do so, but we can do much, much better. Mr. Speaker, we also have, I believe, a fiduciary responsibility to ensure that we work to honor the treaty relationship we have with First Nations as an assembly of elected representatives. That must become one of the preoccupations of the next legislature, to pursue reconciliation in earnest, to create the conditions for us to work together with First Nations in this province to build a society that is both sustainable and works for all of us. It is a time, Mr. Speaker, of rapid climate change and also of slow economic growth, two major challenges that we are going to have to come to grips with in this province, and that's going to be an important challenge for the next Legislative Assembly and for society as a whole, because as a society we will have to change to diminish our reliance on burning gasoline, diesel, oil, natural gas, and coal, and as a Legislative Assembly and as whichever party forms government, to pursue different and new paths to prosperity in the face of the structural changes to the economy. I know New Brunswickers are up to the task. The energy transition and the new economic development opportunities present many, many opportunities to help families flourish in thriving communities and bring about prosperity in those areas. But to successfully navigate this will require, of course, foresight and vision, and I certainly expect that we will see that in the next Legislative Assembly. En terminant, je tiens à souligner la contribution des députés de l'Assemblée législative qui ont décidé de ne pas se représenter aux élections de septembre. Vous avez rendu des services à vos communautés respectives, à la population du Nouveau-Brunswick et à notre avenir collectif. Merci beaucoup. Thank you very much. What do you want, Mr. Speaker? Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Merci beaucoup.